welcome to The Last Shift. I'm Tara Jean. This is Rob Leichhardt, and today we're going to be talking about the NHL offer sheet. I know a lot's been discussed with the Ryan O'Reilly offer sheet, how it's handled, business issues, everything. But Rob, what do you think about everything with the offer sheet?
Well, I think the Ryan O'Reilly deal's been talked to death. I mean, everyone knows how poorly it was handled. Both GMs were really, behind the eight ball on the CBA issues and the fact he played in the KHL for those two games. So he would have had to clear waivers before he was made available to Calgary anyways, and how they would have lost their draft picks and all that. So I don't want to get into too much of my opinion because I think that we've all gone over that. But I think what I want to do is take issue with what most of the media outlets or what most media personnel are saying in print and news about how it was an automatic for Colorado to just match the offer sheet. They weren't surprised that they matched it. Maybe a little bit surprised that they matched it so quickly, but not that they did. They thought it was you got to keep a player like this, and I'm like, wait, no.
Well, they didn't have time. They didn't even have enough time to think about it thoroughly. I mean, it was only a few hours when Colorado matched.
Oh no,
it.
Absolutely. There's no way they went through all of the criteria about how it was going to affect them in the long run, which makes me automatically say it was a bad decision. You should at least take a day or two to sort this out. I mean, did they even take into consideration that when they signed him to the contract on February 28th, as per the CBA, you can't trade that player for 1 calendar year after you sign him. Well, if you go back and look at the trade deadline in the NHL over the last few years, in 2010 it was the March 3rd, 2011 it was February 28th, and last year it was February 27th. So he wouldn't even, if the trade deadline is the same date next year, February 27th or earlier, Colorado won't even have the option of trading Ryan O'Reilly next year if they find that the $6.5 million that they're paying him is too high, or they realize that he just doesn't fit in with their plans with that team. So they'll be stuck with him. And if he really proves to not be worth $6.5 million, they have to keep him all year. They're not going to want to qualify him at the end of the year at $6.5 million, which means they're going to lose him to free agency. So is this an automatic for Colorado? I don't think so. I think there was a huge, huge gamble because it causes all sorts of problems for a team that is no longer a cap team. They have their own self-imposed cap. They don't sell out that building anymore. They're trying to rebuild with a young core. They're doing a great job of it, which is exactly why I don't think that they should have matched. They should have taken the draft picks. Currently, Calgary's sitting in 12th place in the West. They're probably going to finish there, outside of the top 8. And next year, going into the lottery, every team is going to have, albeit a small percentage, if you're finishing in 12th, 14th, 15th place, 9th, 10th, 11th place, you're going to have a small chance, but you are going to have a chance to win the lottery and get the first overall pick. Colorado should have taken that chance, add a top lottery pick in what is supposed to be a deep draft. I just got to think that were lazy on this one, and they just thought, we have the player that we want, let's just keep him. I don't want to have to go into the draft and hopefully find another player that might come into his own in 3 years.
Well, what I have a problem with is that they signed him and he doesn't even have a proven track record of being a really good player.
No, I know, absolutely. Wouldn't you rather sign a player that has already proven that he can score and play in the NHL? I'm not saying that Ryan O'Reilly's not an NHL player, right, but he had 18 goals last year, and next year he's going to be paid $6.5 million after only a small sampling of work this year. He's going to play 24, 25 games this season. That's a quarter of a regular season. It's hardly enough of a sampling for you to say, yes, he's going to be worth $6.5 million. By the time that they have made a proper assessment on what his value is, they are either going to be forced to trade him, keep him, or pay him this astronomical salary. I just don't get it. I mean, by comparison, Mason Raymond has pretty similar stats in his first 3 seasons as Ryan O'Reilly, and he only makes $2.5 million for the Vancouver Canucks. I know that's not a great comparison. That's only one. They're not the same type of player, but Ryan O'Reilly is third on the depth chart in Colorado. He's their third line center. I don't know. I don't think this was an automatic. I don't think Colorado looked through all of the issues that might come up. And they just wanted to keep the player, and they just paid the price for it.
Well, has there been any examples of when an offer sheet has benefited a team, or?
Well, not many, because honestly, the history of them is not great. I mean, in the last 15 years, there's been 14 offer sheets signed by teams, by players. And in 12 of those instances, the team has retained that player and matched the offer sheet. Only 2 times has an offer sheet been signed and the team actually got the player. And I mean, you're talking about a 15% success rate. And usually when you put together an offer sheet, you're either front loading it or making it some like crazy term to it, like something like Shea Weber, where he was paid $110 million over 14 years. I mean, Philly put that contract together because they wanted to try to pluck a franchise defenseman from Nashville, and Nashville ended up overpaying and matching because they didn't want to just lose their best player. And so it's not a good contract, but that's what happens is these teams put out these crazy contracts that they hope the other team won't
Right.
match.
It's just raising,
and they still do 85% of the
salary.
all it does is piss off the other GMs in the league because it just raises the salaries of these young, unproven players. These players are have just come out of their entry level contract, so they're just finished playing their their rookie contract, and now you're paying them giving them these huge terms and this crazy money. So you're paying them on potential rather than on results. I just think if I'm a GM in the NHL, I avoid going the route of the offer sheet. It's nice to think that you're going to pluck this nice, great, potential superstar from a team for just a few draft picks, but the success rate's too low, and now they have to live up to this huge contract. The results aren't great. I don't think that the track record isn't great on it.
So you think NHL could just do without having offer sheet, or?
Well, they just ratified the CBA, so they can't do without it. It's in the CBA. I also think that it's an important
Can be beneficial.
It's an important bargaining chip for the players, because without it, then they're at the mercy of the team that has that's retained their rights to basically pay them whatever they want, because they can't go to arbitration. They're not unrestricted free agents, so the offer sheet is the only way it's the only bargaining power that a young player coming out of their entry level contract even has. So I understand why it's there. It's protection for the players, so it's not going to go anywhere. At least for the next 10 years, because the CBA is done anyways. So it makes sense in that respect. If I'm a GM, I think the business side of it doesn't make sense for me.
Right.
So I'm in disagreement with most people. I don't think that. I think Colorado should have taken Calgary's draft picks on this one.
All right, GM, smarten up. Use the offer sheet
Wisely.
A little bit more wiserly. Just so it'd be more beneficial, we think.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Have a good night, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter, The Last Shift. Email us or tweet us any questions or comments. Have a good night.
Okay, good night.